Hey, welcome to Live from Dennis's house. Today we have a great show as always, and we're going to be doing Sly and the Family Stone. The album is called Stand. Look at that. Wow, that is beautiful. And this album was released in 1969, I believe. This was their first, this one right here, we've got Everyday People playing, and this was their first #1 song, and it was, the B-side was Sing a Simple Song. Now, what do you got to listen to nowadays, though? What's #1 right now? We don't even know.
We don't even know. We can't even name a song if we knew.
Do they even have charts and music anymore?
I don't think it matters anymore.
See, we think that's too loud, but I'm not going to lower it. So, well, let's get right into it. I didn't even mention my guest. My guest, the great Lou Klubenspies. And Lou is a master bass player. He's a master basser. And it was his choice to pick Sly the Family Stone today.
Absolutely.
And we had a whole extravaganza lined up. We had a guy singer, we had a girl singer, and what?
Explosions.
Exactly. But needless to say, it's very hard to get musicians to commit to record shows when you want them to record them. So we had some cancellations today, so we don't have any singers. But we're still going to show off some of Lou's expert bass playing. We'll do a little history of funk through the bass, and we'll go on from there. So, all right, let's lower this song a little, and let's get into the music. And
You lowered it a lot.
yeah, you can't get any lower than that. Let's now have the smelling of the album, Lou.
Very good.
Now, this is Lou's album. I've never seen this album before. Where did this come from?
That is an original U.S. first edition pressing
Wow.
of Sly.
This is awesome. See,
It is
good thing that
awesome.
you brought this, because I had the greatest hits. I didn't even have this album. And,
It's all brown around the edges like it's supposed to be. Look at that.
This is
That
awesome.
authentic.
1969. You don't get
Yeah.
nothing like this. They don't make stuff like this in China.
That brand new, that was probably $1.99 too, right?
Yeah, oh man, look at all this
That's
stuff.
all that
There's so
family.
much in
It's
there.
all family pictures,
Yeah.
right? Which was
See, and that's why the band is called Sly and the Family Stone. Did you know that the people in the band are actually family members?
I did know that. Yeah.
That it's Sylvester Stewart is his real name,
Right.
and he has his Freddie, his brother, playing
Right.
guitar, and then his sister, whoever, Rose, I think, or
Rose,
something like
right.
that, and then there's Cynthia.
Right.
I hear him yelling Cynthia's name on their song. See, and the beauty of these guys were formed in 1967 in San Francisco, and they were the first integrated band, the first boys and girls in one band, and they were just so outrageous when I first saw
White
them.
and black too.
What?
White and black.
That's
too.
what I meant by integrated.
You said boys and girls.
No, both. Multi-gendered, multi-ethnic. There was something for everybody in there. And they had these wild clothes and wild hair. Like you see all these afros and everything. And it was just, phenomenal music. I heard somebody put it perfectly, that there was, some guy, I don't know who it was, but he said his quote was, you can,
Lead a horse to water.
all right, here, I'm
It's
going
a
to
very scripted show.
instead
It's
of
very tight.
trying to go through it, I'm going to actually read it. There are two types of black music.
Aha.
Black music before Sly Stone and black music after Sly Stone. And that says it perfectly. Because before it was, Motown, and, that was awesome, it's great stuff. But when Sly Stone came and Larry Graham, the great bass player, and they played all this funk. They invented funk, I have to say. James Brown is going to say he invented funk, but I'm giving it to Sly Stone. What do you say?
Absolutely.
All right, there you go. It's official now. You could update Wikipedia now.
Right. Two white guys and Sly Stone is funk, so there you go.
And he influenced so many people. It's ridiculous that it was like start naming some people.
Well, it was pretty much right away too. It was, like you said, Motown was what was popular at the time, and it's impossible to diss Motown. But this was so night and day different that the Temptations, the Spinners, the Fourth, all those bands were directly and immediately
right. They
influenced
started
by-
playing funk
right. They
after
all of a
that,
sudden
yeah.
they're all playing the same kind of music as Sly.
Exactly. And
It was funny because it was him and his brother, but they had competing bands for a while. they both formed separate bands in the '60s, and then at the recommendation of a friend, they combined them, and that became Sly and the Family Stone, which was the result of the two prior bands. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And then, because they had a couple albums before this. I think this was their third album.
Yeah.
And this came out in 1969, and it was just revolutionary. It had, like, all these songs on it. Everyday People. That song right there takes me back. Every time I hear that, I just remember just being a little kid and listening to that stuff, and I loved all of their songs. And we're going to name the tracks off of this. Can you read that?
Oh, wow.
Can you see it? You want my reading glasses? Are they in there?
Is it even
what do we got? Oh, they got the lyrics and everything. Because they have the title track, Stand. What else? I got to get my glasses for this, Lou. Actually, you read. I'll read. We'll take turns. Stand is the first one. What was the second one?
The second one is I Want to Take You Higher.
Yes, because there's a song in here. It was very controversial at the time, and I can't really even say the title. It's Don't Call Me Blank, Whitey, and it was a controversial song back then, but it's a great song. And it was actually redone like in the 90s by like Ice-T and Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction did a remake of it. There you go. Somebody's Watching You, Sing a Simple Song, Everyday People, Sex Machine, You Can Make It If You Try. We've started playing side 2 first before side 1, but we'll go back. And
you know all these songs. They're all great songs. You know,
absolutely.
even if you don't know the name of the song, I guarantee you've heard
yes,
all
when you
these
heard
songs.
it,
When you hear it, you'll know it.
If you didn't hear it through that, you've heard it through rap, because this, I was reading this is the most sampled album of all time. Every single rapper through the 80s and 90s, and probably still to this day, they're still sampling some of this.
Well, if you listen to Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself, and then listen to Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson, you hear it's almost the same song. And it's all sampled out of Sly.
And of course, Prince is a big influence by these guys too.
And then modern bands, you got Jamiroquai. Right, who if Stevie Wonder and Sly Stone had a kid, it would be Jamiroquai. Right, there's all kinds of bands that were influenced by these guys.
Yeah, people probably don't even know they were influenced by this, you know, and that they were. And they were they stole the show at Woodstock. People say that besides Jimi Hendrix, that these guys were like one of the highlights of the show. That they were doing I Want to Take You Higher, and all these songs like turned into a big jam. Weren't they playing during the rainstorm or something too?
And they played first thing in the morning.
Oh yeah,
right, when everybody's still passed out, and they still were the best act, one of the best acts.
Yeah, definitely.
Woodstock.
So we'll have to revisit these when we do my Woodstock show in August. We're gonna have to revisit this. But
absolutely.
So you know, they had hit after hit after hit in the '60s, but then it started to go downhill when Sly was introduced to cocaine and PCP. That things tend to go downhill at that point in your life, and he became erratic, and he was missing shows. Like I was reading something that he missed like 20 shows in a row, and you know, he just couldn't be found when he did show up at the show. He would do 20-minute set and walk off, and just it was just a terrible you know, downfall. And then by the mid 70s, you know, that was it, and you didn't hear anything from him. I think that was his last hit, the song that we were going to perform. We were going to perform Sing a Simple Song, and we were going to perform If You Want Me to Stay. So we're just going to do a little of it later in our instructional portion of the show. But those would have been really good if we had some singers. But anyway, so...
Yeah, so that was... by the mid-70s, he was kind of semi-retired, if not mostly retired.
Yeah.
But I remember he went on Mike Douglas and said, I'm going to put something out, and if it's not platinum by Friday, I'm quitting. And so naturally it wasn't. I think it sold like 8 copies, and so he had to. He basically retired.
I remember that Mike Douglas show. He was like in the crowd trying to get all these old people up and dancing while he was playing one of his songs and stuff with his platform shoes.
Kind of over by. There was a lot of friction, like most successful bands. There was a lot of friction in the band.
Yeah.
And I remember he thought everybody was out to get him. He thought Larry Graham had hired like assassins to come and kill him. And I guess that's what dust must do to you. It makes must make you paranoid.
That'll do it. That's it's on the warning label right there.
So he there was a lot of fighting, and then at one point, I remember Larry Graham and his wife had to like escape through a window because they thought Sylvester Stallone's bodyguards. Because
Sylvester Stallone.
I mean Sylvester.
I told you were going to do that. I said it in the beginning.
Well, because you kept saying it. He kept saying Sylvester Stallone the whole time we were warming up, and so now he knew something. So anyway, Sly's bodyguards were mafia and gangsters, because that's the kind of crowd he ran with. And so Larry Graham thought these people were out to kill him. So he and his wife jumped out a hotel room window, and he promptly quit and never came back. It was like, you know. So that was the last they saw of him. Then he went on and founded Graham Central Station and became famous, which he should have been.
And then I believe the whole fusion era started somehow through this with those guys too. Like Herbie Hancock was influenced by him, and therefore went off and started the whole jazz fusion genre.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
It definitely
Sly was
way more influential than people probably remember.
Exactly. So let's play a little more of that. You want to show some of your stuff now? You got hold on, let me load this. All right. I can't risk it.
So growing up, I mean, in my house there was a lot of music. My dad was into a lot of Motown and OJs and all that stuff that was popular at the time. But it was my aunt Anna Mary, who used to show up to family functions on a Suzuki. She was like the wild child in the family.
Cool aunt,
she was like the one cool wild child aunt. She would show up on her motorcycle with her 8-track boombox, right? Which was back when everybody had a boombox. And she worked for Panasonic at the time, so she had all this great gear that nobody else had, right? So she showed up with her boombox and her 8-track, and it was this. And I remember hearing, the first time I heard "Thank You," I was like, "That's whatever that is. That's amazing, and I gotta have it." So that's what got me hooked on it. So I credit her for that. And then I grew up in Roselle, for you Jersey people who know where that is. And so you ride your big wheel up and down the street till it got dark and the street lights came on. And then at night you had WABC and Cousin Brucey and Ron Lundy. Right? Remember those guys? And all I had was my little AM mono radio, my little Tootaloop. And so again, another Panasonic product.
This is awesome. In the original box.
Look at that.
Wow.
I bet half of you never even seen this before. You're going, Toodle what?
Yeah.
Right? But this was like a little AM radio that you had.
Oh, man. Does it still work?
I'm sure it still picks up tons of static.
Oh, wow. Listen to that. Radio Free Europe.
That was BBC right there. But yeah, this thing was basically, you were supposed to wear it on your wrist.
Oh, okay.
So you could walk around with it, like with your leopard skin pants and all that stuff, right? And then the tuning dial was in here.
Oh, man.
The whole thing, it's all self-contained, and put your batteries in.
I can't believe music actually came out of that.
Right? Yeah, right.
Wow.
This is more technology than Apollo 11 had.
Yeah, right.
But anyway,
awesome.
so the great thing about this was you could take this and you could shove it under your pillow, right? And then just put your pillow on it and lay it, because it was like, so like you put it on and you go to bed and you hear 77 and they were playing all this stuff. They were playing Sly and Jimi Hendrix and Zeppelin.
That was the awesome part of AM radio back then, that you could hear everything.
You could actually hear decent stuff.
Yeah, they would play the bubblegum music in between Sly Stone, and then you'd have Sugar Sugar by the Archies, and then,
then Purple Haze would come on.
Exactly.
And then Ron Lundy would come on and mumble something.
And Wolfman Jack, was he on that station too?
Right, Wolfman Jack.
Speaking of that, let's get, this reminds me that, you know who died this week, Lou? The great Casey Kasem passed away finally. That's there was all this controversy. I don't even know what was going on.
His wife, remember? You know who his wife is?
Jean Kasem from Cheers.
From Cheers, right?
Yes.
She was what's his name's wife on the show.
Nick
Tortelli.
Nick Tortelli, right?
The shoe hospital.
Loretta. That was her name.
Loretta. Yeah, that's that. Loretta on Cheers is Casey Kasem's, I don't know, second wife, third wife, who knows how many wives. But she was somehow, they were arguing, him and Gene and his real kids, right? Kerry and those, they were all arguing over feeding him or something. He was supposed
freezing his head or something.
Right. He was supposedly so sick, they were arguing about should he be fed, should he be in hospice, whatever it was. And I read that this week they took him off all the life support, and he just died real quick.
Very sad. And that must really stink, though, for kids, though, when you have a really rich dad and he marries up with some new girl, and then like you're afraid you're gonna be thrown out of the will and all this stuff. And then imagine that your dad is Casey Kasem and you get nothing, and Loretta gets like $50 billion.
Right. I think she hit him too. Remember?
Yeah.
They couldn't even find him. They were arguing about we can't even see him. We don't even know where he is. They thought he was out of the country and all kinds of stuff. So apparently that woman's kind of a nut job.
Yeah, it's safe to say. So, in honor of Casey Kasem, I am going to do live from Dennis's house, top 40 right now of the week of June 21st, 1969. I'm going to do the top 10 songs of June 21st, 1969.
Are you going to do any long distance?
Yes, I'm going to do a long distance dedication. Our first song comes in a long dedication from little Corey Muller, whose pet chimpanzee was hit by a car and died. So this makes me think of course, that
Corey writes, "Dear Casey."
That when he goes berserk, and you heard that, right? It's on the internet and stuff. And this is ponderous, man. This is effing ponderous. Like, because they have this clip of Casey, like doing a dedication like that, and it's like some dog died or something, right? And then it goes right into an up tune, and he goes berserk, because he messes up the words or something, and he's like, "This is ponderous," and he starts yelling at like the producer and everybody, saying, "You screwed this up. How am I going to go into an up-tempo song after a dead dog?" And he goes on and on for like 20 minutes. But
now we're up to our long-distance dedication. And this one is about kids and pets and a situation that we can all understand, whether we have kids or pets or neither. It's from a man in Cincinnati, Ohio, and here's what he writes. This may seem to be a strange dedication request, but I'm quite sincere, and it'll mean a lot if you play it. Recently, there was a death in our family. He was a little dog named Snuggles, but he was most certainly a part of... Let's start again. From coming out of the record. Play the record, okay? Please. See, when you come out of those up-tempo goddamn numbers, man, it's impossible to make those transitions, and then you got to go into somebody dying. They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for, but goddamn it, if we can't come out of a slow record, I don't understand it. Is Don on the phone? Okay, I want a goddamn concerted effort to come out of a record that isn't a fucking up-tempo record every time I do a goddamn death dedication. Now, make it, and I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week. This is last goddamn time. I want somebody to use his fucking brain to not come out of a goddamn record that is that's up-tempo, and I got to talk about a fucking dog dying.
So anyway, I'm going to name the top 10 songs, though. Number 10 was The Israelites by Desmond Dekker and the Aces. No one's ever heard of that song. Just goes to show not everything in 1969 was good.
Yeah.
Then we had In the Ghetto by Elvis Presley.
Of
Everybody
course.
knows that one.
Of course.
Love Me Tonight by Tom Jones. Not familiar with that one. I know Tom Jones.
Yeah.
More Today Than Yesterday by the Spiral Staircase.
Yeah.
Don't know it either. Good Morning Starshine by Oliver. I think I know that one.
You do. You've heard it.
Good Morning Starshine.
Everybody's covered it. So
Yeah. And now here we get to the good stuff. Bad Moon Rising by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
There you go.
They had, I think, 20 top 10 songs just in 1969 alone.
And I know that one was playing in our house too. I know my dad ran out and got that.
Yeah,
when it came out.
That was good stuff. And What Does It Take by Junior Walker and the All-Stars. We know of them. And then up from number 7 from last week to number 3 is What Is the Loneliest Number, Lou?
1.
Very good. 1 by Three Dog Night is at the number 3 position. And then up from number 4 to the 2 position is the love theme from Romeo and Juliet by Henry Mancini.
Oh, that's right.
What the heck is the world thinking?
No,
The number 2 is that song.
No, there was like singing nuns and all kinds of crap going on in the 60s.
I know, that's the beauty.
People hadn't found their own stations yet.
Exactly, that's the beauty of it, though, that you can have Three Dog Night followed by Henry Mancini. All at the, you'll be listening to that on your Toodaloop at night.
Right.
And then...
Well, that one had a filter on it.
Yeah, that is great, though.
Would turn off.
Henry Mancini. And Now, in the number 1 spot, up from number 3 last week, is Spinning Wheel by Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
That's a bad job,
That's
too.
a classic song.
Yeah.
So, good night, Casey. We hardly knew ye. And did you know that who he was the voice of in cartoons as well?
Shaggy.
Yes, very good. And he did many other voices, but that was the most famous one, I believe. So, that's it. That's it for, what's his name? Casey. So,
He summed up his whole life in 2.5 minutes.
So, all right. I know what else I want to talk about. I want to talk about the World Cup. They're having the World Cup this week, right? So, I'm not a fan of soccer. Nobody really is. But people pretend to be during the World Cup. So late at night it was on. They were showing some game. And I said, all right, I'm going to sit here and watch a little bit of this. It was in extra. It went into overtime, right? So I said, all right, I'm going to watch this. This is going to be exciting. And it went into overtime. The score was 0-0. It went into overtime. Right. That absolutely nothing happened for an entire game.
Right.
And then it went into overtime. Still nothing happened. And the game ended.
Right.
So that's why soccer will never catch on in the United States.
I mean, if you want to see a bunch of guys not score for 90 minutes, you can go to Houlihan's.
During happy hour,
I never got it either.
Yeah, it's just guys running up and down in shorts. It's absolutely doing nothing. So
Yep.
I can't understand soccer. I'm sure plenty of people, the Brazilian people, are going to be sending me letters, but, you know. All right, so now I mentioned about, let's play some more music first as we discuss this. Talk about how you got into playing the bass now and your influences and all that kind of stuff when you were a boy.
Well, actually, like a lot of bass players, we all started off on something else. Way back in middle school, I was actually a sax player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nobody knows that now because
Wow.
I haven't touched one. But yeah, I started off on saxophone. Took that all the way through high school. Was playing in jazz bands. Playing jazz saxophone in high school. And then a friend of mine in high school recruited me to come to one of his shows and play the saxophone solo to Lady Madonna by the Beatles.
Yeah. Sax solo in there?
Yeah, well, we put one in, right? So we did a sax solo for Lady Madonna. And so I went to the show and I played the solo. And I saw like what was going on, right? It was like you had a rock band, and I looked around. And I'm like, this is way better than like playing jazz saxophone. And I took the saxophone and I flung it at the vice principal, right? And then the police tackled me, and I was out of there. So I said, all right, I got to take up something electric. It was a must. So I took up rhythm guitar, playing in another band. And the bass player in that band, they wanted to play Paranoid by Savage. And the bass player couldn't handle that opening riff, right? You know how that goes? He could play every other note. Yeah. He could play every other note. So the guitar player threw him through a wall, handed me the bass, and said, here, figure this out.
You're the new bass player.
You're the new bass player. So it was kind of good because I actually wanted to be the bass player in that band, but they had one, so I couldn't be. So then I got to be. And then I rode my bike to a music store in Westfield, and I started buying songbooks for cool albums at the time, and I just sat home and I figured it all out, right?
And you just stayed with the bass. You were a consistent bass.
Never stopped playing bass after that.
Awesome.
So I remember in 1979, I got to see Rush front row at the Palladium. Remember,
Wow,
you remember the Palladium?
I've been to Palladium many
Remember the
times.
Palladium? Yeah. So I got to see Rush front row at the Palladium. And so I was sitting like this close to Geddy Lee for 3 hours, right, watching them play Hemispheres and 2112 and all that. So Rich Pachessa, if you're watching this, in there, man, did it. So I'm like this, looking for Geddy Lee for 3 hours. And I said, okay, that's what I got to do. So I went to, again, for you Jersey people, went to Rondo Music on Route 22 in Union and bought the Rickenbacker that I still had by the time, yeah. So that was it. I was off and running, playing in every band I could get into. Played a lot of Rush and a lot of Zeppelin and all that good classic stuff. And then in the 90s, when Dennis and I formed our band, was when the Chili Peppers were hot. Everybody was digging that. And I got real into that. And so I went out and bought a Stingray, which is the kind of bass that Flea plays in the Chili Peppers. And been with that ever since.
There you go.
So it's been Since 1978, roughly.
Wow. So
Playing bass.
who would you say is your main influence for the bass?
Well-
Was it Geddy Lee or?
You mean in terms of getting me into playing it? It was definitely Geddy Lee.
And then who's your favorite bass player? Is Geddy Lee still your favorite or?
No.
Tell us some of your
Victor,
favorites.
well, actually, my favorite bass player right now is Victor Wooten.
Oh, there you go.
So, and I actually did. This is a true story. Got to meet Jaco Pastorius before before he was murdered.
Wow. Do you have the missing bass?
I know where it is. Honestly, I know where it is.
Really? Because other people have told me they have it. So.
No, nobody has it. I know where it is. In fact, that leads me to another story we'll get to in a second. But I got to meet Jaco at a club in New York City. There's clubs in the Village, right? If you go down Grand Street in the Village, there's clubs where they just have a chalkboard out front, and they just write who's going to be there on the chalkboard. They don't advertise because the clubs only hold like 50 to 60 people, so they can't advertise, right? If you said Rolling Stones tonight, it'd be a bum rush. And so a couple of friends of mine, my drummer friends and I were in New York, and we're walking down the street at like 11 at night, and it says live at midnight, Jaco Pastorius, word of mouth. So we called home because we were still kind of, we were still too young to be out all night. So we called home and begged our parents to let us stay in the city, and they said okay. So we went and we saw Jaco play at midnight live. And no lie, when the show was over, the place was so small. Like these guys came and sat at the bar and drank beer.
Wow.
So I actually got up the nerve to walk over to him, shake his hand, offered to buy him a beer. He was a Guinness drinker.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we kind of hung out for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I mean...
That's awesome. That's something.
Yeah. And touched Jaco Pastorius. So there you go.
Hey, welcome to the instructional part of the show now. Since we don't have singers, and even though we were supposed to have singers, we were supposed to have guy singers, girl singers, what else?
Explosions.
Now we got nothing. So we're just going to do a little instructional part of the show here, guitar and bass, which made the sound famous anyway. And started off with Larry Graham, who was the grandfather of the funk bass. And Lou's going to put it down there, and I'm going to play a little ninth chords here in the background, which I think James Brown's guitar player invented that. So we'll just do a little of that and see how it goes. We're going to start with Sing a Simple Song by Sly the Family Stone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lovely. So, what else we had lined up? We were going to do, it was actually, I believe it was his last successful single. It was called If You Want Me to Stay. Apparently people didn't. So, but we're going to play a little bit of it, and it goes a little something like this. Hit it, Lou. And then throughout the history of funk bass, this was started in the 60s, went through the 70s with Sly Stone, and then it went into the late 70s, early 80s with rap. And then it went into a song called The Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, which was arguably the first rap song ever. So,
yeah, arguably.
Let's play a little of that. Said hip hop, hippity hop, hip hip hopper, hip hop, don't you stop, yeah.
Doug, your job is safe.
After that, we went into another, I guess in the late 80s, 90s, it turned into Red Hot Chili Peppers picked up on this. And one of my favorite funk basses since then was Flea. And we're going to do a little rendition of Aeroplane.
A little rendition.
Yeah, let's just throw down a little bit here.
A little bit of the riff. Count it.
1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. That's the history of the bass. What happened to the bass since then? Anybody playing bass anymore?
No. Justin Bieber doesn't know anything about bass.
So there you go. That is the history of the bass. We'll fast forward it and get to the history of the bass in 39 seconds.
That's it. Only on the Modillo show.
So, in the meantime, our time is up, Lou. There we go. Sing a simple song. This is what we were going to do today with the whole extravaganza, exchanging lyrics, vocals and stuff, but wasn't meant to be. So, but we had a good show anyway, and bring up that album again now. I want to see what we got. Oh, I want to talk about, before we get out of here first, I want to talk about Sly Stone, what he's up to now, that he was actually arrested in 1987 for cocaine. And he, since then, he went into seclusion, and that was it.
He literally, as of 2011 or 2012, was living in a van.
That's what I heard, down by the river.
Yeah, he was living in a van, and there was an old couple. There's an old couple
that's
who
what I
takes
had
care.
here.
They feed him and they wash him, right? And so he actually lives in a van.
In Crenshaw, in LA.
In Crenshaw, right, where Boys in the Hood was
Boys in
filmed.
the Hood,
Right,
exactly,
right.
yes.
So he lives like on the street where Boys in the Hood was filmed.
Yeah.
And there's an old couple that feeds him and helps him out, and their kid drives him around and whatnot. But I mean, he literally lives in a van on a side street somewhere.
At one time, he was the highlighted act at Woodstock, brought 500,000 people to their knees. #1 song all through the 60s and 70s.
Multi-millionaire.
Yes, and
Right.
he doesn't have a dime, and there's some lawyer and some agent who are sitting back right now in a mansion in Hollywood.
Right?
Sons
And
of bitches.
He said he has hundreds and hundreds of songs on tape.
Oh, yeah?
Hundreds of them. Like,
Oh,
he
man.
will not go to a record company now because he's so paranoid about
Yeah,
getting taken
absolutely.
advantage of.
Yeah.
So he's like, does it all in his van.
Ah,
Right?
this is it. This is what we need to do. We need to go down to the van, do a show live from the van.
Live from the van in Crenshaw.
Crenshaw.
Maybe grab some CDs or something.
If we make it out alive, that would be the best show ever, Lou.
No.
So give me that album. Don't put it away yet.
All right.
I gotta see if there's any more valuable stuff in here that I need. There's the lyrics, of course.
The lyrics are all in there.
And-
The family pictures.
Yeah, but what's inside here?
The
There might be
liner, the old-
something. Oh, I love those old school
Yeah.
liners with pictures on the other side too.
Yeah, pull it out.
I want to get another smell before we go.
Right, remember?
Oh, you scribbled on it. Lou loves Judy. Who is that?
See, but you people that remember these, they all came with advertisements for every other record on
Yeah, I
Earth.
love looking
Right?
at that too.
And you get
And
it
you check
home.
them off. I got to get that album.
Right, you get like people you never heard
Yeah,
of.
right, like-
never in a
Yeah.
million years. The
Like
Peddlers,
Bobby
Walter-
Vinton.
Right. Well, you've heard.
You're
of
right,
them,
I know, but I mean, it's like they
the
have everything on.
Zombies,
Yeah.
Harvard. Gun, some band called Gun.
The Arbors, yeah.
Yeah, but this
Jeff
every
Beck.
record used to come with
See,
this.
look at all this stuff in here. You got all of this stuff, a whole party going on in a piece of cardboard.
$2.99.
Yeah, so let's go out with Sing a Simple Song. All right, thanks for coming on, Lou. Live from
Hello.
Dennis's house. We will see you again next week.